On this week's show, I'm discussing everything Team Xbox revealed at this past week's GDC, Ghost of Yōtei taking its Legends mode to the PlayStation 5 once again, and Resident Evil Requiem is landing some new story DLC. All that and much, much more on this week's solo GamerGuild Podcast. Good game, everyone, and welcome back to this week's GamerGuild Podcast, where you join myself, Chris, solo, as I try and round up all of the weekly news into a shorter, more compact version of this week's gaming podcast, where we get together, I say we, plural, and round up all of the week's video game news for your listening or viewing pleasure right here on youtube.com/GamerGuildTV, and available up there in the digital clouds on your podcast platform of choice. Just search for the GamerGuild Podcast or GamerGuild TV, and you'll find us there every single Monday, 8 a.m. when this show goes live. You're joining myself, Chris, and Arcane Rogue as we dive into this week's gaming news and really get into it. There's a lot been going on, a couple of game releases, and everything else in between. So thank you for tuning in, and don't forget, if you haven't done so already, don't forget to like, subscribe, ring that bell so you're kept in the loop with all the great content we do here, like this very show, like our weekly live streams that go up, currently focusing on Resident Evil Requiem, which we'll talk about in a little bit because it is in the news after all, and our retro hunt, where I dive into the past, looking at the catalogue behind me, trying to fill the gaps in and dive deep into the history of PlayStation and find some classic retro games. That's all available on the channel. Thank you very much for tuning in, but let's get into the news. In the absence of my co-host, I should explain, a couple of multiple things landed this weekend. We've had my daughter's birthday party, so we've had a busy day celebrating her third birthday. It's Mother's Day in the UK this Sunday, so that puts us out of action for the Sunday as well. We traditionally record this on a Friday evening after we've had a busy day at work, but unfortunately Richie's internet provider has decided that no, Richie doesn't get no internet this week. So as of Thursday, his internet's been down. So Thursday, Friday, we're currently on day 3 of the outage in his area. He doesn't get great phone signal either. We did think about dialing him in and doing just kind of like an audio call, so you've got something, but no, you are stuck with me as we get into the news. And we do usually start every show with getting into what we've been playing, which is really good because I've been playing Resident Evil Requiem. As I said, there's a new story lined up in the dock, but for the most part, I've completed the game. I've finished it, I've wrapped up, I've thoroughly enjoyed my time with Resident Evil Requiem. It took me about 13 hours in total to play through this game, and quite frankly, I've gone full circle on the Resident Evil franchise. It was a game that, as many of you viewers and listeners know, didn't really play as a child. I was too scared. I think Dino Crisis scared me way too much to even want to contemplate playing Resident Evil. As I got a little bit older, kind of just avoided the kind of horror genre in its entirety. Dabbled a little bit here and there at friends' houses. I did play some of Resident Evil 6, the co-op mode especially. Enjoyed what I played of it, but again, when you're playing with the safety of a friend, it's always great. Played a little bit of Resident Evil 2 on a Halloween one afternoon with Richie and friends as well. Didn't go really beyond the first opening hours of that one. And then kind of, the years passed by, and as you know on the channel, we played Resident Evil 7 Biohazard for a full playthrough. Played Resident Evil 8 Village for a full playthrough, and kind of subsequently in between those times we've had a few games that I have enjoyed that have been very horror centric. The Last of Us Part 2 has some insane horror Resident Evil moments, and a lot of which seemingly as part of this game definitely inspired, and obviously full circle moment with that game as well. The Last of Us inspired that, and vice versa Resident Evil. Similar kind of landscapes and jump scares and themes going on, which you're always going to get that line up when you're talking about kind of infected and zombies. But overall, really enjoyed Resident Evil 9. I know I pod prayers on it last week, but just overall having completed the game, sat down with it, dissected it, got through it quite quickly, to be fair. I know 13 hours is a lot longer than most people's playthroughs, especially if you're out there doing a speed run. But overall, probably one of my favourite games of recent memory. It's certainly a playthrough that I want to go back and play through again. I've had that kind of hankering. This past week, it has been busy with my daughter's birthday and work, but since I did put the game down, even though I finished it, I have looked at the trophy list. I'm looking at what can I do for a platinum run. I've heard of a few ways you can almost like cheat the system a little bit by doing a playthrough without using any herbs or med injections on easy mode. where you basically just run past everyone, which gets you unlimited ammo, and then going back and complete the game on Insanity mode, but having unlimited ammo to complete Insanity mode, which sounds fun, to be fair. I don't really mind how scary all the creatures are if you've got unlimited ammo, right? You just burst through the whole thing with the Requiem pistol in there, which is the most badass weapon in recent memory as well. But overall, yeah, if you've not played a Resident Evil game, this is definitely a great solid jumping on point. I actually think the manner in which I've gone back through and kind of got into the series with Biohazard kind of being separate from the main franchise, other than a couple of the odd cameos, then Village kind of sprinkling it a little bit more in with Chris Redfield, and then kind of going full circle with this game. I definitely think once I kind of have another window open up, I'll be jumping into 2 and subsequently 3 and 4. I've mentioned it before, but they are on the shelf behind me, so I have that kind of lined up and ready to go. But just overall with Resident Evil, I think the game looks gorgeous, the sound design's phenomenal, the horror and the storytelling's great. There are a few parts in the playthrough, so for those who don't know, the playthrough is up on the channel now. Part 3, at the time of recording, Part 3 is available for members, but Part 3 will be going live this Thursday as part of our weekly live stream, so go check that one out. The back and forth between the kind of two protagonists we've got in Grace being the stealth elements and Leon being the more action heavy ones, it's a good balance. There are times when I think the game does get it a little bit wrong, when it maybe spends too much time with one character over the other, specifically Leon in some parts. It does a very Uncharted twist where it kind of opens up a little bit and gives us a wider open world to explore. It's still very much linear. It's giving you an A to B checkpoint to go to, collect the item, move back. But in terms of not being kind of corridor centric, as a lot of Resident Evil traditionally is, it breaks that mold a little bit, but good back and forth, good balance, excellent villains. I think the kind of supporting cast of monsters is terrific. There's a couple in the playthrough which stand out notably, just not only because their grotesque appearance, but in terms of just the horror dynamics they add. Good couple of cameos, throwbacks, even though I'm not a huge... I don't have a huge amount of nostalgia necessarily for the series. Due to like pop culture and just being a gamer, I'm very conscious and aware of certain things, and that rings true in playing the game, which is why ultimately for me Resident Evil Requiem feels like a full circle moment of just, yeah, if you knew the franchise or you're not, this is kind of the combination of the more recent entries with the first person games, the older ones, the remakes. This is like the perfect melding of kind of bringing them all together and just, yeah, quite frankly, enjoying it. And that probably gets us into the first news story of the week. And I'm going to jump around a little bit because I'm doing this solo. I've only done it once before solo. Again, didn't want to really miss out on keeping things fluent. But this is episode 506 in total of the podcast. And again, I don't want to lose that streak after 6.5 years. So here we are. I do have access to the internet. And yeah, I guess we can't really get into it without talking about the graciously gathered GamerGuild Gazette, a.k.a. the news. And of course the news is always brought to you by our wonderful guild heroes, those fantastic members of the channel who do support and pay for Richie's internet broadband subsequently through all your fantastic support. And if you want to get into it a little bit more, why not be a shiny member, because we've now got a new shiny bronze tier. £1.99 will get you early access to the Resident Evil Requiem stream, PlayStation Retro Hunt content. There's currently, speaking of I guess vampires and infected, there's currently an episode of the PlayStation 1 classic Blade, released in 2000, I believe, off the top of my head, to tie in with the Wesley Snipes movie series. It's quite a rare find, and it's up on the channel now for members. It'll go live for regular free feeds, of course, in the coming days. But for the meantime, it's worth jumping in there for almost as little as 99p, as I said. But back to Resident Evil, story number 1. I'll dive into it, and that is the Resident Evil Requiem story DLC has been announced off the back of the game's massive success. Of course, it's sold past 5 million copies as of last week, so it's probably pushed on a fair chunk since then because it's getting a lot of good hype and energy. And in between then, I know Silent Hill had also said that Silent Hill franchise had passed 5 million, I think it was, which is all well and good, but you tailing behind it a little bit in terms of Resident Evil. So what they've announced then, if you're one of the many people like myself who've maybe played the game, got the platinum, and there's a few folks now on Discord who've done it, and you are a bit thirsty for more, then good news, it's getting an additional story DLC, this DLC I should say, further down the line. It was shared by Resident Evil Requiem's director Koshi Nakanishi, Sorry for butchering that. Earlier this week, in a short video, he thanked the community for his support since the game's release up until the end of February, and he assured fans that updates will add the likes of photo mode, which are coming. Bit of a shame with the photo mode one, not going to lie, because I feel like it's one that, if it was there right from the beginning, when you're kind of in the moment, the zeitgeist, the hype, the drama, everything unfolding, you want to pause it. Even during the live streams, a couple of times that I pause it and I kind of want to capture a really beautiful moment or a grotesque moment or even just something that I think will work well for a thumbnail. You can't do it. The pause menu pops up every single time, so you can't even capture something just live from the game. It pops up with a damn pause menu, which gets in the way of everything. So yeah, photo mode's great, but I do think there should be a law now, a law, in quotes, past where video games should really launch with it in this day and age rather than delay it. Like, if all the features to include and all the menu options, why delay it from launch? But it is coming. And then he closed down his video by going through some printouts. He very much did it as a kind of, look, I've printed these out in my bedroom and here they are. Yeah, but he did close in on one which was a story expansion, which is going to delve deeper into the world of Requiem, as he quoted. He says, "We're hard at work on it now. However, before you get too carried away, you may have to wait a little while before it arrives," because he did say, as in traditional Japanese fashion, it will take some time, so we ask for your patience. Very kind of Nintendo of him, refraining from giving any details away of what the additional story might be or what it might include. But he does say, "I hope you look forward to it." Again, classic Nintendo fashion. We don't really know what to look for, I think, as someone who played the game fully through now. I think you've got a lot of stuff to pull on. We obviously had, was it Shadows of Rose was the last DLC for Village, which actually introduced us to, weirdly enough, another female protagonist, which isn't too dissimilar to Grace in terms of kind of like stature, slightly different origin story for those who've played Resident Evil Village. But in terms of kind of just visuals, not too far off. Young girl, blonde/silvery grey, shiny hair. And could have easily been substituted in. So there was definitely a conscious decision made, I think, to go with Grace Ashcroft, the new character, where her mother does tie in kind of with the wider franchise. But it does make you wonder what we're looking at with this one. And I think they would be very, very clever, in my opinion, or very tactical, not necessarily clever, leaning into Grace's character, because my favourite parts of the game were playing the very horror-specific elements with Grace. I thought it felt Resident Evil at its absolute best. The kind of going through the house, slow, methodical, crafting, not all-out action, and Leon was there in the game to really kind of help elevate that and kind of give you a breather between these like kind of scary, tense moments. But ultimately, when I think of the favourite parts of the game, they probably were the elements with Grace, because it's just that there's that element of vulnerability when you're playing through it that does really, really help in making you engage with the game and the character. She had quite a strong origin story, quite emotive early on in the game, and for those watching on YouTube, the part one of the playthrough is actually playing now, so if you've not checked it out, you're getting kind of a big sneak peek anyway of me playing through the game. You kind of get a vibe of what it's about already, but I think her character design, her personality, her determination to push through the story regarding everything that's going on around her. She has the element of being an FBI analyst, so there's room, I guess, to advance her character and become more aware of this world that she's found herself messed up in. I think it would be a really interesting thing to kind of lean into that and give us some more story DLC for maybe Grace. I also think they could go down the arcade route and add in kind of like a Mercenaries mode, which they've always done in the past. They did say that there's new content planned in the form of a mini game, which is scheduled for around May. So not only are you getting story further down the line, but a mini game, whatever that looks like. Don't really know what that means. We obviously had, was it Village that was supposed to launch with the Resident Evil multiplayer game? I can't even remember the name of it because it got delayed, and then it launched about 8 months after, if not up to a year after the game, if I remember, and no one really liked it. It was kind of pointless, and the fact that it didn't launch day and date with the game was the missed opportunity. They didn't seem to do anything with Requiem. It was just, no, it's a straight up single player campaign, that's it. There was no multiplayer tack on. Even with the arcade mode, or the arcadey mode, I should say, of the game in itself, they could have done something more with it. I could see them leaning into that for this mini game element, maybe like a spawn waves of enemies, like a horde mode could work well. I mean, you've already got pretty much all of the assets, but in terms of what I like to see out of it, I just think, just carry on with the actual story element of it and expand that out on a little bit. But it's good to see we're getting Requiem DLC. I'm quite excited for it. I'll probably be picking it up. If I haven't got the Platinum already, I'll go back to it. It could be something that's quite interesting. But all in all, a good look for Resident Evil, a good look for horror, and obviously on the tailwind of this, we'll probably get much more as we head towards Resident Evil 10. I'd imagine we're probably going to get a Resident Evil 0 remake, a Code Veronica remake, and probably remake of number 1 again, all in the RE engine to kind of bring them full circle. And then we have Resident Evil 10, which kind of again encompasses everything. So you've got an exciting probably 5 years until you get the 10th entry in the series, but no doubt the way Capcom are working at the moment, you're going to get a lot in between. And fingers crossed, this has shown me that Pragmata has huge hope for it, if it does well as a new IP. And at the same time, please, Capcom, for the life of me, put the RE engine to work on Dino Crisis Remake. Come on, it's ripe for the picking. It's there. Jurassic Park, Jurassic World is still bigger than ever as a franchise. They do not deserve the sole license to make dinosaur things. Get in there, make Dino Crisis a thing, be a huge success, and then maybe we'll get a Dino Crisis movie as well. But big week all in all. The second story of the week, jumping back to me, is going to be Xbox at GDC. We knew, of course, reporting for the last fortnight or so, we've had massive shake-ups at Xbox. We've got leadership changes. Phil Spencer is technically has retired now. He's now there in just a transitional support mode, which it's nice of Phil to do that. I don't think he really needed to. But then, yeah, we've had Xbox and Asher Sharman out now at the front and center of things. They were always at GDC. We should point this out. GDC is the Game Developers Conference, so it's not usually in the public eye, but there's been a lot of influence who've gone along to it. There's been a lot of kind of announcements and reveals, essentially. But looking at Xbox as we know it, Project Helix was obviously teased last week by the new CEO, and they start to kind of really get into a little bit of like what Project Helix means and what it's going to look like. And it was broken down on a technical level for the most part. We know what they're partnering with their AMD chips. And I'll read a quote here from Pure Xbox. They go on to say that, talking about how to improve on the Series X and the Series S, they say, as part of our multi-year partnership with AMD, we are shaping the future of rendering and simulation. Project Helix is powered by a custom AMD SoC and co-designed for the next generation of DirectX and FSR to unlock what comes next. And this is off the back of what myself and Richie spoke about last week with the Project Helix. What it means, what it represents, is this kind of merging of it's a PC at its core, which consoles are really anyway, added in with the console overlay, the Xbox window, as you will, that we've seen on the ROG Ally. And they go on to say it's going to deliver an order of magnitude leap in ray tracing performance and capability, integrating intelligence directly into graphics and the compute pipeline, and drive meaningful gains in efficiency, scale, and visual ambition. The result is a more realistic and immersive and dynamic worlds for players. So that's to do with the kind of AMD partnership and what that means for just kind of streamlining everything pipeline-wise, working from top to bottom, from the game devs to making the stuff to the performance, the output, the visuals. It all ties into this big, massive kind of alpha version of Project Helix, which they've announced is going to be going on next year. It's going to be shipped to developers in 2027, which, again, to highlight that part there, 2027, that seemingly means that the kind of the track pipeline that I think a lot of us have suspected for some time is that Xbox were going to pull the trigger on going next gen early, like they did with the 360, get out in front of PlayStation a year ahead of time. We're now in this weird time where we have Nintendo Switch 2 is out now. It's a year old, or it's coming up on a year old, and that kind of always has sat outside of the other traditional generations. We've got rumours of PlayStation delaying their generation again due to the Ramageddon that's going on right now with just the sheer price of acquiring the physical hardware. And we were always, I think, led to believe that we would see Xbox jump the gun a little bit earlier. We knew they had the success of the ROG Ally, the ROG Ally last year, with the Xbox mode overlay, which is essentially what they're talking about here. It's going to be the ROG, is it ROG or ROG? I don't know what we say. The ROG Ally handheld. And that was just going to kind of get expanded and incorporate all these different storefronts like GOG, like Steam, like Epic. And then now looking at this, if they're declaring that the alpha version of Project Helix is going to be shipped to developers, so the dev kit essentially, in 2027, if it's early 2027, you could possibly see the next Xbox console at the end of next year. But I think a lot of people thought this year was going to go ahead with a double barrel of the Xbox handheld console, following on from the ROG Ally, and then the next console would follow. Either it would come out at the same time, so you'd have a handheld and a physical box, like classic hardware, or they would stagger them, maybe heading into 2027. But this suggests that if the dev kits aren't going out till 2027, I believe off the top of my head, the way the Series X and S featured is the dev kits they didn't get to developers that early, all things considered, probably about 6 months before. So just because they're not going out to 2027 doesn't mean that we won't get the launch in 2027. It just means that the games might not be as optimized for the next gen. But then the way this generation's landed for everyone, there's definitely going to be a huge transition. Just look at PlayStation 4 to PlayStation 5. There's still 40 plus million active users on that old player base. And the PlayStation 5 is decades plus old at this point. So we're in this weird zone with next-gen consoles where it's being pushed back. PlayStation doing it. Seemingly Xbox now, whether it's under new leadership or they want to get their 25th anniversary year out the way, I could see it working out now as we see the 25th anniversary, which happens in November later on this year. They're going to use the 25th anniversary celebrations to essentially launch the new console. So I could see an announcement of the next console, what it looks like, what it really does, its bells and whistles, etc., set for a 2027 release. So I think they'll announce it at the back end of this year, in line for a 2027 launch. Still, again, getting ahead of PlayStation. I'm sure PlayStation will have something in the pipeline. But of course, remember, we've already got the Pro. So they're kind of like mid-generational leap, what they normally do, is out now. The PlayStation 5, of course, came out back in 2020. 2020? Yeah, 2020. That's 6-year-old nearly at this point, come the time this one gets announced. So the generations go longer. And you know what? I really don't mind it. I think we haven't seen the power. I know myself and Richie spoke about it last week. We haven't really seen the power of the devices. The first-party studios have struggled with output. Xbox's output has arguably been a lot better. They're going multi-platform. They've got a ton of studios. PlayStation is still middling and meddling around with this kind of live service fail that's happened. Remember, we should have got a Spider-Man multiplayer game. We should have got The Last of Us multiplayer game. We're getting 100 Horizon multiplayer games. We had Concord. We've got Marathon. See what Marathon's doing. I saw this week Marathon's concurrence haven't hit triple figures yet. And things like Slay the Spire 2, which is still in beta early access, is absolutely smashed out of the park. So it's like this weird internet zeitgeist of the big, massive, multi-million-pound corporation in Bungie and then multi-billion in terms of Sony, compared to this one little indie game sequel, seemingly worlds apart in terms of like just the internet culture of who wants to play them. But in terms of the Xbox experience, they went on at GDC to say that yes, the experience is going to be consistent across screens. Started with the ROG Ally last year, is going to expand with the role of Xbox mode, which we've seen demonstrated on the handheld. It's going to come onto Windows 11 April this year. So actually you're going to see a lot more of that transitional transparency across, which is going to allow players to seamlessly switch between productivity and players, the Microsoft quote on these things. But what it means is you're going to see basically a familiar full screen optimized for an Xbox controller across any device you have. And I feel like we've honestly had that for quite some time. I'm not a massive fan of the Xbox overlay, but I think if we get a refined version of that, even akin to the older model on the Xbox One or the PlayStation 4 UI, which I think was actually the most minimalistic but also approachable and easy one to figure out. I'm not a massive fan of the PlayStation 5 one, although I've become accustomed to it, as you would do after 6+ years. But having this optimized experience across everything, we've kind of already seen it with Cloud, Xbox Play Anywhere. We've seen it with the likes of getting your kind of Razer Keyshis clipped to your phone. The apps, you want that omni-balanced presence across all platforms. And I think doing this with PC, doing this with the console, doing this with the handheld, doing this with cloud, again, it unifies it, it makes it simple. Xbox have to be applauded, round of applause, when it comes to that seamless experience. They've already done it with backwards compatibility. They've already done it with the cloud saves across all devices. The fact that you can pick up a game from the 360 era if you had it and booted up in today's world, and it pulls it through on your cloud program on a random PC that you're streaming. It pulls it through on your mobile phone. There's loads of good stuff that goes into it. They've obviously not really give any more great details, but they did go into the backwards compatibility program, which I just alluded to there, being really important for them. Asher Sharman said about getting back to their roots and being Xbox again and kind of getting the shackles off what it means. And they did say, as part of our 25th anniversary later this year, the game preservation team will release some iconic games from the past that are now going to be playable in entirely new ways. So they didn't really go in depth into what that means, but it does seem like it's a vague hint towards what this kind of cross-compatibility will be between the PC, I guess the PC world. It would make you feel like the familiar Xbox experience, the flexibility that is brought from PC games. I think they're leaning into saying, well, actually, let's look at the PC heritage Windows has got. Remember, as part of Phil's retirement and the leadership shake-up, they did come out and say, I think it was Natalia. Satya, I forgot the guy's name. The big boss at Microsoft. He came out and said in his statement, Satya Nadella? That sounds about right. He said that Windows was around before Xbox, so gaming's always been part of Microsoft's DNA. For I guess the 4 generations of Xbox players now, they might lean into having PC games become cross-compatible. So when they talk about game preservation team, we're going to look at some iconic games from the past. They could probably lean in massively to the PC library as well, and that kind of brings them, maybe not entirely, but it gives them a bit more parity with the Steam libraries, GOG, and such. Not so much Epic, but you get my gist of where we're going at. So if you look at some backwards compatibility that's currently not available, there's quite a list out there if you look at them, but the top 10 most wanted games looking at pure Xbox, they're talking Simpsons Hit and Run, Silent Hill 4 The Room, Burnout 3 Takedown, Silent Hill 2, Jet Set Radio Future, Spider-Man Web of Shadows, Sonic Heroes, Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions, Spider-Man 2, and Blur. There's also some notable absentees this year, such as Lord of the Rings The Two Towers in at number 11, absolutely. James Bond 007 Nightfire is in at number 28. Need for Speed Most Wanted is all there as well, and they're talking about backwards compatibility. Just off the back of this list, immediately my brain says, well, Simpsons Hit and Run's tied up in legal things. The Silent Hill games, are probably the most notable ones that you could get. The Spider-Man ones, you're going to have to worry about Sony's licensing on that one. Remember, PlayStation, Sony own Spider-Man. They lease it out to Disney and Marvel just to get Tom Holland in the movie. So maybe not pin your hopes on that one. However, a lot of these games, Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions, Spider-Man Web of Shadows, the Silent Hill games in particular, they're all super expensive and super rare in the second-hand market right now. If you search for Silent Hill 4, you're talking a couple £100. If you're talking Spider-Man Web of Shadows, especially the Venom, is it like the Venom purple holographic casing that you get in it? That's a couple £100. Silent Hill 2, same thing as well. Simpsons Hit and Run, they're not bad. You can pick them up for about £20 on the PS2. But in terms of the Lord of the Rings Two Towers, I'd love to see that come back. I know it's Xbox compatibility, but man, give me a remaster of those games. I think me and Richie said about it many, many times. But the reason being, a lot of these games are stranded on disc only in 2026, and then that's the reality is if they want to fully commit to this game preservation, there's so many games right now that you can only play on a disc, so digitalizing them, remaking them, reformatting them into this backwards game preservation, absolutely. The other one that was on that list mentioned, James Bond 007 Nightfire, absolutely love to see it. I know Al Davis Music in our Discord group would love to see it as well. Again, the reason it won, Sony, Bond, MGM, the Broccoli people, all the kind of backwards compatibility tied up with licensing with EA. It's on the shelf behind me. It is one of the best James Bond games. I'd love to see all the James Bond games come back, especially with trophy or achievement support. But can they make it happen? That's the big story. Can they make it happen? Who really knows? But folks, let's get on to our second. No, it's not our second. In fact, it's our third story of the week. See, when it's only me, I can't even keep track of it. Ghost of Yōtei Legends is now out, folks. So let's have a look at what it looks like. We've of course, pulling the article up why I do talk to you fine people about this. Keep it there for everyone. Let's go. So, yes. Ghost of Tsushima Legends, footage supplied by MK Ice, Fire and Ice. It's now out. I've played it a little bit, so I downloaded it. I had to reinstall. I thought it was going to be a separate thing, but it actually ended up being part of the main game. So I had to install the full game again to get this rather than it be standalone. But yeah, basically, Ghost of Tsushima Legends, it's free to everyone who owns the game. It adds an entirely new online co-op mode, just like Ghost of Tsushima did before. You compete basically in a large number of missions. There's 4 playable classes and loads of unlockable cosmetics, as there is in the actual main game. But just from what I've played so far, Sucker Punch, just like they did last time. Remember, Ghost of Tsushima launched. We didn't know anything about an online multiplayer component, and then a few months, I can't remember what it was off the top of my head. They just released this absolutely banging online mode where you went into the kind of mythical, ghost-ridden demon samurai fictional world, taking the grounded reality that was Ghost of Tsushima and turned it into this fantastic co-op online adventure where you took down these monsters in this mythical world. And they've kind of done it again with Ghosts of Yōtei Legends, is they've gone above and beyond again. Basically done the same thing. Yeah, it's absolute double swipe twice. Yōtei is obviously weapon switching. The combat is a little bit different. So the kind of gameplay mechanics from the first game had like a shield. They basically had different stances. And this one's lean more into weapons. So in terms of the online Legend mode, it works quite good for the second incarnation of Legends because it gives you a more in-depth offering because it's weapons rather than just stances. So not everyone's too dissimilar, even though you could pick your different classes to start with. You basically start off by tackling a series of 2-player campaign missions, which you can do. You can do them with people online, you can do them solo, which are themed around 4 big bad bosses, essentially. There is, of course, some narrative thread tying all these in. I think they do quite well telling you the kind of the ink pattern stories. What's the ink pattern thing called? It's been a while since I played the game. The specific like Japanese type of narrative where you see the ink kind of flying around on the paper and it tells you the story of the monsters. So there is a narrative thread kind of tying the quest together, but what it boils down to is you're playing as the vengeful ghosts, so warrior spirits tasked with taking on the fearsome demons, the Oni, as you will. And the campaign missions are fairly brief. Or the start are fairly brief. As you kind of go up through the ranks, go up through difficulty, it does get a little bit trickier. But I would say Yōtei's kind of central combat system, if you've not played it for a couple of months like myself, you need to get yourself familiarised with that again. But once you've got your head around kind of like some slightly new villain types, and you figure out how to work as a team, because I think myself and Richie, when we played Legends for Tsushima, that's what we struggle with getting our head around. Is actually now there's 2 of us, sometimes 4. How do you get your head around like when to go, when not? Don't all rush and charge in. Like you have to be tactical about who holds certain areas, who sneaks in, who's stealthy, which different roles within the team that you play. Because essentially to deal with them differently, you need to. So for example, the Spiders campaign, which is one of the antagonist at the very beginning of the main Yōtei campaign, he's now like an ethereal, corrupted giant spider. You come up against them, and basically he's corrupted the land. The evil's kind of spread across the whole area, and to deal with them efficiently, you need to essentially concentrate across the land and sorting that out. So you fight hordes of demonic soldiers. You kind of range attacks to take down big bosses with these kind of exploding pustules, I would say. But essentially all these like kind of different types of enemies that they introduce you to, all these demons, is they basically all stack up. The mechanics stack up quickly. It gets more frantic than the online normal campaigns do. And it's interesting. It's fun. Yōtei's combat is very, very slick and dynamic, just like it is in the main campaign, just like it was in Ghost of Tsushima. But in terms of, just the overall depth of gameplay, quite fun to do. The 4 tiers you have to go through, it's kind of tiered like the PlayStation trophy system, so bronze, silver, platinum, gold. And then, if you keep playing it, you kind of rank up, you get better kit, you better get equipment, you get your perks that build up to it. But the campaigns are only one part of the Legends, so that's like your initial introduction. And then beyond that, you basically find yourself gravitating towards the wave-based survival offering, which is what I had the most fun with Ghost of Tsushima, which is where the action's pretty much the most dynamic. You've got 4 players, you've got one big map, multiple waves of enemies come in. They kind of come in from multiple different points. You need to defend the locations, a bit like base defense. Slightly different enemy varieties to give you a bit more chaos thrown in there in the best possible way. And then you end up basically kind of defending your keep with other players as these like kind of hordes of demons descend on you. And once you go around, you've kind of got your archer skills come into it. You've got your trigger points for like trapping the enemies. You've got your level up power so you can use your specials. But yeah, basically in any campaign victory that you have, it increases your equipment more, so you get more powerful, you get new weapons, new charms for better gear. So as an online component, it kind of levels up like naturally with you, which will pave the way to higher mission difficulties, therefore more points. So the progression is quite simple. Once again, it's pretty much the same thing as Tsushima, so why fix something that's not broken? There's a grind there if you want to get the top levels and get the top equipment, so you've got that kind of online progression. And then, it kind of just keeps going. The Legends is it seems quite expansive. It doesn't seem like a little half-assed thing. And this is why it's insane that this game isn't just like... I mean, I say that it's not yet. How is it not just like kind of a standalone one that they could charge for? I mean, putting it free in the game is great for those who bought it. But the fact that it's not a standalone, like, £20 experience absolutely baffles me, because I think they could absolutely do it. It's the type of content that... in a horrible, twisted way, this should have been its own standalone thing. This is what potentially Bluepoint could have been working on. This is what Sony Bend could have been working on. But instead, we get this as part of a kind of free tie-in, and then we get Last of Us Online cancelled by Naughty Dog. We've got the Horizon game made by Guerrilla that isn't the Horizon game people want. And it's baffling that we had the PlayStation 3 generation, which were able to put out absolutely banging multiplayer titles. Killzone multiplayer was amazing. Uncharted multiplayer was fun. The Last of Us Factions was fantastic. And they kind of had the things lined up ready to go. And they just backed out in the wrong places. Like, I stand by The Last of Us Online would have been terrific. Really, really fun and engaging. Guerrilla, I know they are doing it, but it looks, whether it's the art style or whatever puts you off it doesn't look like what I would have wanted out of an online Horizon game. We'll see what the end product looks like for that one. But in the world where Killzone and stuff's not missing, and we're not getting another Infamous game, we're not getting Resistance, shout out to Resistance, their online campaign multiplayer, I should say, was great. It was very simplistic. It was very much like Team Deathmatch, capture the flag, defend this in Horde mode, just like Gears of War was. And it works so well. But either way, in terms of Ghost of Tsushima Legends, Sucker Punch has pulled this one not just once, because it was amazing. Tsushima, Ghost of Yōtei, fantastic. Wish it was just standalone. Like Ghost of Yōtei Legends, it should just be Ghost Legends, I guess, would be the best way to kind of umbrella multiple games. But get in there, test out your different weapons, test out your bombs, enjoy the game. It's free if you bought the game. So if you've not played Ghost of Yōtei yet, what a great opportunity to just jump in and check it out as well. Why not? Absolutely cracking. Next up, we've got your PlayStation Plus games for the month of February. February? What am I talking about? March. Starting off, we've got, for March's PlayStation Plus Extra being added. So this isn't your downloadable games. You've got the fantastic Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2 on PlayStation 5. You've got Persona 5 Royale on PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4. Madden NFL 26 on PS5. Blasphemous 2 on PS5 and PS4. And Metal Eden on PS5. The Lord of the Rings Return to Moria on PS5. And the Astroneer on PS4 also drops in. So you got a couple of games been added to the catalogue. That's 8 games in total. They were leaked earlier in the week as per usual, but they've now been confirmed. They'll be available from Tuesday the 17th, so tomorrow when this show goes live. But the reason why I wanted to re-shout it out is that Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2 is fantastic. It's one of the most fun games that I played last year. You can pick it up for quite a good price, but hell, if it's free on the subscription, go check it out. This game is basically just arcade fun. Doesn't take itself too seriously. You don't need to know anything about Warhammer. It's just a badass army guy saving the universe from horrible bug-style villains, fun combat, crazy weapons, just straight up badassery, really. The game looks great. The campaign isn't too long. You can probably finish the campaign in less than 10 hours. So if you're looking for something that just kind of like, literally like just meat off the bone, kill stuff, take your mind senselessly and enjoy fun, splatting big things, gutting monsters and stuff, then this is definitely the one for you. I will do a shout out to Lord of the Rings Return of Moria. It's basically your Valheim crafting thing with a Lord of the Rings skin to it. The highlight absolutely is John Rhys Davies does the voiceover for the intro and some of the cutscenes, which is of course Gimli from the Peter Jackson trilogy, so go check that one out. And of course Persona 5 Royal is one of the best Persona games, so go check those out in their entirety if you've got PlayStation Plus. And then moving on to the next story of the week, I quite like this one. This comes from Eurogamer, and that is the fact Uncharted Drake's Fortune somehow, after 18 years, has had an Easter egg cracked open. That's right. The game that launched on the PlayStation 3 back in 2007, 18 years after release, a speedrunner has come across a little unknown Easter egg tucked away. The first Uncharted game, which introduces to the whole cast of characters. I don't know why I looked over there on my wall. It's right in front of me in the article. But in November 2007, it went on to, of course, spawn one of PlayStation's most recognisable franchises in terms of Nathan Drake and the crew. But 18 years later, in Chapter 19, speedrunner Panzia Dia came across an Easter egg. When he was going out of bounds within the chapter, they came across an image featuring 16 mugshots of whom we can assume are all members of the Drake's Fortune development team. Names on the photos held up to look like Naughty Dog crew with all their nicknames, so they don't actually give away their real names, but they are all there. So I'll actually bring this over for you guys to have a look at as well. So those who are watching along at home, we essentially see the speedrunner go in and to Chapter 19, Unwelcome Guests, and he uses, again, just breaking the boundaries, flies outside of the level, and when he scopes around as Nathan Drake doing his little yoga pose, he actually goes into another part of the level, which you can't see, which is the bunker where you get attacked by zombies, but there it is, up on the wall. You've got all the mugshots of the Naughty Dog crew just hiding, not in plain sight, but they are all there as well. So yeah, shout out to these speedrunners who just break the game. I've watched a few. IGN do a really good series where they get devs to react to speedrunners, and the reason it's great is you see all these people who toil for years and years and years over their artwork, and then some speedrunner comes along and basically just goes, I'm going to jump over this wall, I'm going to hump this cargo container, the shipping container, and then do a bunny hop and do a teabag in the corner, and all of a sudden they can leapfrog 3 levels out of your game, just kill the boss in one hit, and get the platinum trophy. And you think, like, what is going on with that? How is that even possible? How do people even figure this out? It baffles me. It's so interesting because when people go out of bounds, I love when you see just everything behind the scenes. You see how simplistic games are and how complex they are at the same time. The way it basically breaks it all down and lays it out for you in like a room by room grid based service, and the fact that what you think is a video game and you feel like you're in this lived-in world, and actually it really isn't. It's just a couple of walls and a couple of boxes with textures which make you think that you're playing a game. And actually it's all stacked on top of each other, and when you break bounds, that's how you end up in other levels, because you're basically on level 3. It looks like a corridor, like in Resident Evil, and then actually on the other side of that level, for the convenience of loading times and keeping everything on the same dev plate, they have level 4 right next to it. So if you go through that corridor, all of a sudden it's a jungle. And then beyond the jungle foliage, there's another corridor, and that's the basement of the previous level, and they just kind of keep it all in their Minecraft style, all on like kind of a block grid, so it's just kept together and locked in. So really interesting, nice to see, and as a massive Uncharted fan, it's great to see that the devs get some recognition 18 years after burying that little Easter egg in there. So they keep coming, keep doing it. I love to see it. One of the things you could break in the future, but you could also build it back up, is that we're getting some more Lego minifigures. Lego announced officially this week that in 2027, so a little bit of a while off, as part of the Mario Day news, we got Lego announcing a little teaser which seemed to show off a Mario minifigure. which is the first, I would say, proper minifigure, because we've had the minifigures in the past, but they're kind of like, you know, the chunky Mario where it's kind of locked down and his head's not really the same shape and Mario's not really the same shape. We're getting that at some point next year, so I don't know what that looks like, but it is a decent little bit of Mario news. It seems like Nintendo and Lego are really partnering together to get everything locked in. But yeah, who knows? It might be coming soon alongside a games console, because we've got another leak that claims the PlayStation 1 console is coming later this year, also locked in Lego. It's being claimed by a prominent Lego leaker that the PlayStation console set, including at least one controller and the console, is coming and will land this December. The set will be based on the classic PlayStation console and not the smaller variant that was released later. So the PS1 you can see over here, it's going to be based on the OG fat PlayStation, which it should be, right? Why would it be based on the smaller one? Lego fans have relied, of course, on self-made replications in the past to kind of make things out of Lego. But I guess it makes sense, right? It's probably quite an easy one to make at the end of the day. It is a big grey rectangle. It doesn't need moving parts. But yeah, the information given typically includes just kind of how many pieces to expect, the rough price. So you're talking codename P or Play, PlayStation. Apparently it's going to be include at least one controller, 1,911 piece set for $159.99, so £160. $149.99 probably UK pound, I would imagine, but I'd be there for it, I think. I mean, there's so much Lego. I saw one this week for the Lego Jurassic Park Jeep. They did a great social reel of that one with the Dennis Nedry character getting the Jeep and building the truck while he's in the truck while the storm's outside from the original movie. And I look at it and think like, oh, the price. It's the price though, of course. We've got like the Game Boy set that came out last year for about £60-80. I can't remember what that was, but I always look at it and think, one, I don't have the space anyway, but if I did, do I have the money to do it as well? Of course, you know, here on the channel I spend a lot of time building up this library here. I would probably rather put that £60, £70, £80 into getting 1, 2, 3 maybe titles for the actual library of games. However, a Lego PlayStation 1 could be the right amount of my interest to merit me kind of digging deep. Or maybe if it's coming out in December, it's a Christmas present I can ask the lovely wife for. But it's interesting, Lego just absolutely everywhere. They've got one of the best business models possibly going under the sun. Purely because they just partner with anything and everything, right? Kids like Bluey. Let's partner with Bluey and make Bluey Lego. Kids like PlayStation. Let's make PlayStation Lego. But wait, kids also like Marvel and Spider-Man. Let's partner with them. What about Disney and Frozen and Zootropolis? Let's partner with them. They literally take their brick foundation and can go to any brand. What about Gordon Ramsay? Let's make a Gordon Ramsay kitchen range with like fake little cooking sets and fake Lego steak and grills and meat and frying pans. It would probably sell well as a Gordon Ramsay gourmet edition. You can literally do it to absolutely anything. I'm surprised they haven't leaned more into football with it being a World Cup year. I don't think you see much Lego football related stuff. But it'll come. It will come, absolutely. And then I guess the final story I wanted to touch on for the week, it does kind of lean in a little bit to the Mario stuff, but you've already seen it online. We don't really talk about it here on the channel because we don't like to get political, but if you've seen the latest White House promotional content for the crap that's going on in Iran right now, that they used an entire montage video of the Wii Sports characters in basically what can be described as an advertisement for how well their war is going in Iran. In quotes, I say well for audio listeners. But yeah, they intersplice like clips of just gameplay from Wii Sports. You'd see like them hit a tennis ball for a hole-in-one and it would say Betty, but then it would cut to footage of explosions and real-life warfare, and then it would show you the tennis game, and as he hits the racket, it would show you a building explode, and they'd show you like kind of the bow and arrow where you shoot the targets in the Wii Sports game, and it would cut to what looks like a strike on a country. And yeah, the video is kind of accompanied by, instead of the Wii, it's got the Wii Sports music. It opens with the title. Instead of saying Wii Sports start up screen, it says Operation Epic Fury. Nintendo haven't addressed it directly yet, but we do know they were looking at lawsuits for previously using the content, and we know Nintendo is first and foremost a legal lawsuit company and a game manufacturer second. The way they go after anyone and everyone, even me talking about it here, is quite risky for the channel. But they've not addressed it yet. But it comes a week after the Pokemon company basically touched out and said, like, yeah, don't use Pokemon imagery to basically promote war and all this stuff, and don't use our lovely characters, creatures and creations. There is no permission granted to use our IP. They've went on to say, like, our mission is to bring our world together. That's not affiliated with any political viewpoint or agenda. And yet the White House and this whole administration seemingly happy to use anything and everything. They've used Kesha videos, Sabrina Carpenter videos. What was the other one I saw this week? There was a clip where basically a bunch of celebrities had to come out and say, I think it was Halo, actually. Master Chief was in it. Like, the voice actor for him came out and said, like, I don't condone this. I haven't given you the rights to use my voice, my likeness. Not Master Chief, the voice actor, not his likeness, but it just shows you that no rules go for this, and it's all obviously terrible stuff that's happening, and we don't really talk about it on the channel because it's not worth getting into here. Again, there's plenty of channels and places in the world to talk about this stuff, and it should be spoke about, but not here on a gaming channel, because you can do that in your own time. And I talk about it with my friends and my family and my wife, and it's like it's depressing, man. It's a sad state of affairs, and it does make you think, but it's gaming related because they have the audacity to use and ruin, besmirch the amazing sanctity that was the millions and millions of people who enjoyed playing Wii and Wii Sports with their grandparents, they're introducing their parents, their siblings, smashing the lamp with your nunchuck controller, and such an innocent time tainted by that administration and the warmongering that they're seemingly going on at the moment. But beggars belief. But I tell you what, instead of looking forward to the future, which will hopefully be a lot better, and Nintendo will sue the ass off of them, we can look back at this day in video game history, because that's right, we like to end every single show with looking back at this day in video game history. And I'm recording this on March the 15th after midnight, so apologies for the shorter episode, folks. Apologies if my voice is starting to go, but as I said, busy week, internet problems, child birthdays, Mother's Day, work in between, but I wanted to get something out for you all, so thank you for tuning in. I know these episodes never run as great. I know it's just a lot of one voice, and I feel like I'm telling it at you all the time, but we are at its core a two-person hobbyist, game hobbyist team. So here we are on March 15th recording this, and if we look back at this day in video game history, let's see what we've got. A big one, actually, I do think is a standout, is Pro Evolution Soccer 2, released on the PlayStation 2 25 years ago, in 2001. And I think as much as eFootball is pretty much dead in the water to me now, and FC 24, 25, 26 will just, it's the standard, Pro Evo for a time, especially on the PS2 era, run for the money. My brother, me, would be FIFA guys. My cousins would be Pro Evo guys, and you'd go around each other's houses for matches, and you'd hit circle to shoot, and that would be cross, and you'd sky it, and you never quite got your head around the variation type. But ultimately, everyone landed on FIFA, and Pro Evo went the way of the dodo to a point where they even rebranded it. So, shame to see that one kind of come and go back and back. Special shout out to Salt and Sanctuary, which is a little indie game from 10 years ago. Really, really good on the PlayStation 4. That was released in 2016 already. And then looking a couple of days ahead, what we've got. March 16th, we have nothing great. Oh, there we go. There's a great one. God of War 3 on the PlayStation 3, probably the height of the original trilogy in 2010. 16 years old, the original God of War, and of course we'll get that game going full circle with the God of War 3 remake, which may come out as a bundle, it may come out individually, so you might get it in quite a while. And then 4 years ago, in 2022, don't know why I said it like that, we got Tunic, which was the little Zelda Fox game. I think it was one of the biggest kind of Game Pass looking titles in my mind. When I think of Game Pass in the early Xbox days, yeah, Tunic is the one that stands out for me. Just visually, thought it was a cute little game. But I think it might have been the first one I downloaded on my Series S when I got that. So it will have been one of my kind of first dives into the kind of Xbox world. And Game Pass, really. And then the final one for me is Resistance Retribution, which I have down there, right at the bottom here somewhere on my PSP little section. I do have a PSP section. I've got my PlayStation 5s. I've got the PlayStation Vita section, which is getting a little bit bigger up here. And a lot of people, when we look back at this day in video game history, don't know, but I actually have a Sega Mega Drive Genesis collection back here, probably about 10 titles now. That dives into things like Zero Wing, DuckTales. What else have I got in there? Batman, the 1989 Batman. I'm trying to think. Mickey's Castle of Illusion. Tailspin. That's another one I got on. Power Rangers, the game, tied in with the movie. Son of Chuck is a good one I do like. Toy Story, the original Toy Story movie on there. So there's quite a few things. But yeah, Resistance Retribution, 17 years ago on the PlayStation Portable, I should say, in fact, brings this show to an end for this day in video game history. But as I said, that's been it for this week's episode. Thank you very much for those who've tuned in and stuck around to the end. It's very hard to juggle not only hosting, reading the news articles, getting some visuals up on screen for you at the same time. I don't know how live streamers do it. Sifting through it, having an opinion, but letting you kind of digest the information at the same time as news, but then also listening to my takes and thoughts on it. So lots of Resident Evil talk. Thank you. Lots of Ghosts of Yōtei Legends talk. Thank you. Hopefully Richie's internet will be back up and running next month, but we couldn't do this, of course, without your continued support for being here and seeing us through these weekly episodes. So don't forget, if you haven't done so already, do like the video, subscribe, and ring-a-ding-ding that bell so you get in the loop with all the great content we do here, usually together. Weekly live streams, Resident Evil will be up this Thursday. If you are a Guild Hero or member, you get it early, usually a week early, a trying time a week early. PlayStation Retro Hunt, there's episodes of that up right now as well. New ones going live this week. Free feeds, but again, members get a little bit early, so why not go down, click join below, and support us that extra little bit more. Even get this shiny one. If you want to go extra shiny, why not? But my name's been Chris. You can find me at Arcane Rogan, of course, at GamerGuildTV every single week when this show goes live at 8 a.m. on a Monday. That's been it. My name's been Chris. And remember, folks, whether you have internet or not, play whatever makes you the happiest. I'll see you next week with a co-host, hopefully. Thank you very much for tuning in and watching. Goodbye. Bye.